The monarchy of the North, officially the Kingdom of Portugal, was a short-lived revolution and monarchist government that occurred in the north of Portugal in early 1919. The movement, also known as the Kingdom of Traulitânia, based in Porto, lasted from the 19th of January to the 13th of February 1919. The movement was led by Henrique Manuel Couceiro, a prominent member of the Portuguese imperial government, without any sanction from the deposed King of Portugal, Manuel II.Paiva Couceiro, who had led and participated in many previous attempts at restoring the Portuguese monarchy, stated that the revolution was necessary because, if the North does not agree with the South, I will be, until the end, on the side of the faithful to tradition. The revolution's inability to gain strong popular support throughout the country, coupled with its unorganized structure, led to its quick demise and the re-establishment of the Portuguese republican regime in the north. Background: the north of Portugal has often been the historical setting for revolutions and revolts against the position of the Portuguese government, for the liberal revolution of 1820, which went against the absolutist government, to the Republican Revolt of 1891, which went against the monarchist government. However, the north has also been the traditional seat of the Portuguese nobility. When the 5th of October 1910 revolution deposed King Manuel II of Portugal, the Portuguese monarchy, which traced its roots back to 868, was substituted for the First Portuguese Republic. King Manuel II and the royal family, now banished from Portuguese soil, fled from Ericeira into exile, first to Gibraltar and then to the United Kingdom, where the British monarch gave them refuge. After the revolution, King Manuel II and many others speculated the downfall of the newly installed republican regime, as it was installed without much popular support. Though King Manuel II was ready to reassume his rightful throne, he stressed the importance of being diplomatically and electorally restored, not militarily. On the 3rd of October 1911, Paiva Couceiro commanded the first counter-republican revolt after the revolution, the first monarchist incursion into the northern city of Chaves. The monarchist forces raised the blue and white flag of the monarchy at the city hall and held Chaves for 3 days, until they retreated when republican forces marched towards the city. Chaves attack. Though the first monarchist incursion into Chaves had failed, Paiva Couceiro regrouped with his supporters across the border in Galicia to launch a second, more powerful attempt at capturing the city. Unlike the initial incursion, the preparations for the second movement were well supplied and supported, having received unofficial aid from Spain, which feared that the radical republican policies of the First Portuguese Republic would cross the border into Spain, where the monarchy stood on uneasy stilts. In total, about 450 men, both civilian and military, joined the monarchist revolt, and more volunteers and supporters were expected to join the movement as it made its way through the countryside. By the time the monarchist forces reached Chaves on the 8th of July 1912, approximately 700 men were planned to take the city for the monarchy, but the incursion lacked the larger amounts of public support that Paiva Couceiro had expected, being cheered on mainly by pacifist priests and noblemen who could not support the movement on a military basis. By the time the monarchist forces made their way into the city proper, 150 local volunteers, with brief training, had organized themselves to protect the city in the name of the republican regime, while a company of 100 soldiers from the Portuguese army marched towards the city. Though the monarchist forces had superior numbers, they lacked the supplies that the 100 regular soldiers brought in by the end of the attack. 30 monarchists were killed and the rest either fled into exile or were arrested. Though the royalist attack on Chavez was a failure for monarchist forces, it laid the ground for what would become the monarchy of the North, in that it demonstrated that monarchists were prepared to use military force. Proclamation of Restoration. On 15 January 1919, Prime Minister Sousa Barbosa took control of the Portuguese Republican government and made João de Canto e Castro da Silva Antunes president of the Portuguese Republic, filling the position after the assassination of Sidonio Bernardino Cardoso da Silva Paes. Sidonists, supporters of the assassinated president, gathered under the command of General Almeida and formed the Provisional Military Junta outside of Lisbon, in opposition to President Canto e Castro. Similarly, in the north of Portugal, Sidonists formed the governing military junta, which proclaimed to control of the north under provisional circumstances, taking advantage of the turmoil caused by President Sidonio.Paiva's assassination and replacement. Paiva Couceiro quickly made his way to north of Portugal, where he assessed that the setting was conducive to the restoration of the monarchy, to meet with the monarchist central command. The Integralismo Lusitano Central Junta met on 17 January 1919, where Antonio Maria de Sousa Sardina and Luís Carlos de Lima Real Almeida Braga decided to proceed with Paiva Couceiro's plan of taking Porto, with the intention was to cut off Porto from Lisbon and thereby foster unanimity for a restoration of the Portuguese monarchy. Although Antonio Sardina and Paiva Couceiro marched into Porto without any resistance from a local military or citizens, on the morning of the 18th of January, it was not until the following day that a formal ceremony that included the hoisting of the blue and white royal flag proclaimed the monarchy of the North. Following the proclamation of the restoration of the monarchy, the blue and white flag was hoisted at government buildings throughout the north, from Viana do Castelo to the historically contested city of Chaves. Monarchical support. The government was run without any sanction from the deposed King of Portugal, Manuel II. Demise. The revolution's inability to gain strong popular support anywhere in the rest of the country, coupled with its unorganized structure, led to its quick demise and the re-establishment of the Portuguese Republican regime in the north. Bibliography. Dia Rio da Junta Governativa do Reino de Portugal. Colecão completa, N1 and 16. Porto. J. Pereira da Silva, 1919. Felix Correia A Jornada de Monsanto. Holocausto Trágico, Lisboa. Tip. Source and Amp. Guades. Abril de 1919. A Questão Dinástica, Documentos para a História Mandados Colegieri Publicar pela Junta Central do Integralismo Lusitano, Lisboa. Empresa Nacional de Indústrias Gráficas, 1921. Luís de Magalhães. Por Restauramos a Carta M. 1919. Correio da Manhã, 27 e 28 de fevereiro de 1924. Luís de Magalhães. Perante o Tribunal e Nacau, Coimbra, 1925. Hipólito Raposo, Folhas do Meu Cadastro, Volume 1, Edicos Gama, 1940. Antonio Sardina, Conrado Eneo Guarda Silencio, M. Antonio Rodrigues Cavaleiro, Inedito de Antonio Sardina sobre a Monarquia do Norte, separado em 1516 da Revista Sulco, Lisboa, 1968, pp. 43-55. José Manuel Quintas, Os Combates pela Bandeira Azul e Branca, Historia, em 10 Janeiro de 1999. Redação Quidnovi, como coordenada José Hermano Saraiva, História de Portugal, Dicionário de Personalidades, Volume 8, ed. Q and Edição e Conteúdos S.